Trevor and Jill Talk. Today we'd like to welcome Ariana Tupac Yupanqui to our team. We're so excited, right,
Yes,
Jill?
she's awesome. She is an intern that we were able to meet through the Live Girl She Works program. It's an incredible internship program. I highly recommend it for less next summer if you want to find very capable, wonderful interns. And I also recommend, by the way, their art show in New Canaan that we went to this past week. That was at our last show, and I think it's through tomorrow. It is so worth going.
Sunday, yeah, I think it closes down Sunday afternoon. But yes, the Carriage Barn Art Center at Waverly Park. Go visit an excellent exhibit called She is Rising. And we had the best time there last week, right, Jill?
We did. I'm going back this weekend, and it'll be a gorgeous weekend to walk around that park and see it. It's
Yeah,
fabulous.
that's a great idea. So today we want to talk some very hot topics, and I think one of the top ones is the sort of incredibly momentous decision that Naomi Osaka made by pulling out of the French Open
Yeah.
late this week. And I think this is reverberated around the globe, and I see it as a wonderful thing. What do you think, Jill? Because I've had some interesting conversations with people who completely disagree with me. So, would you think it's positive?
Okay, so to explain a little further, Naomi Osaka, who is the world's number one, I believe,
Yes.
she's won so many Grand Slams over the last few years. She pulled out of the French Open because of mental health reasons, not because she twisted her ankle, which nobody would look twice at, right? And tennis players pull out all the time for those kinds of things. But she pulled out saying she needed to deal with that. And what's really fabulous in some ways is that she has gotten so much support from other players and also from corporations
Mhm.
for being vulnerable and being brave enough to expose this issue, which is so important in so many ways, and you don't hear about it in public very much from athletes or superstars.
It's such an incredible moment for, I think, all sports, where all of a sudden the power really has shifted now to the player, not to the institution. And I believe that we're seeing, again, a sea change across actually a lot of institutions
Mhm.
about mental wellness or mental health issues. Everybody from Buckingham Palace is having to grapple with these issues. But to be a young, I think she's 23, she's the highest paid female athlete. By the way, she's still 14 athletes behind the highest paid man, just
Mhm.
FYI. So she's not at the top. Nonetheless, her pulling out of the French Open is so momentous. And I think it's a combination. And I read a wonderful article, I think Lara Krause in the New York Times. It's just such a pivotal moment because these athletes now have their own platforms, right? They can speak to their fans directly through Twitter or whatever it is they're choosing to use, Facebook, Instagram. And this has taken a lot of power away from the media. By the way, she would have had to talk to the media once upon a time because that's the only place she would have had a voice. So this time around, she chose not to speak to the media because it hurt her mental health. She did not appear after the first round, which of course she won. Then she got fined $15,000 by the Grand Slam, the French Open people, and then she decided to leave. And she said, "I'm the media makes her very nervous and it contributes to her anxiety and her depression. And she doesn't need the media anymore, right? Billie Jean King is saying, once upon a time, we had to talk to the media. We don't anymore.
This is interesting to me. I'm a huge tennis fan. I've gone to so many US Opens, and you are like so excited at the end of the night typically. I'm looking at this so differently now. The player that wins, and obviously like no other sport, they're out there by themselves, sometimes for women 2 to 3 hours, men could be up to 5 hours playing these matches, not talking to a coach, all alone, so much pressure. And then afterwards, the winner, sometimes the loser too, depending how far along they are, is interviewed in front of this whole stadium. And for me, I always think, oh my God, what a fantasy, because I love tennis, to win this and be interviewed. And then they hit the balls up to to spectators, and it's so awesome. But now I'm thinking about it so differently because for somebody who has this anxiety,
Mm.
not just the little media nerves or shyness, but this anxiety, how scary it must be. And they do sometimes get pretty personal with those questions out there. And they do that at the US Open, particularly. That's a big highlight after every match. So I guess this must have been just really so much for her all this time. So, and I think that she got fined for pulling out of, was it the tournament, and also talking to the press.
Or yeah, not talking. The original, it started out not talking to the press. And
Mhm.
by the way, there's another aspect of this which many of us haven't known or really paid attention to. But she was asked a question that there wasn't even a question first. The statement came from this journalist who said something to the effect of, "Well, you're kind of compared to the to the Williams sisters because you're black," and then asked a completely separate question regarding the game. And so for this Lara Crouse was saying, I mean, but it was just a non sequitur. It was an unnecessary and it felt racist. Of course, the person didn't maybe feel that or see it, but for Naomi Osaka, she's having to field all of these really tough things as a young woman of color, and is expected to just slide through this like everything's wonderful and bright and pretty, and she's going to smile, and she's saying, "I've had it," and how brilliant and how tough it take, how difficult it must have been to take that stand. That's so courageous of her. That's the way I believe.
So it was interesting reading. There was an article, Venus Williams, her take on it. She has a different look, towards this. And she used to say, when I would get this criticism, she didn't shy away from the press, though, didn't
Yeah,
make her as so anxious. But her attitude was sort of like, you criticize me all you want. Let me see you play tennis like this. Come out here. I'll hit a few balls with you. And that's a great attitude, I think, for anybody who is sort of criticized, whether they're, in the public eye, whether they're an actor or an artist, a singer, an athlete, etc. If you're able to kind of keep that perspective, which she is. But I don't know for Naomi Osaka what she's dealing with actually. But it's a lot to have, the conversation about your game, your race, your gender, and the whole world is watching. So again, some people, they love it. They thrive. They've got a team that is making it okay for them. But I could definitely see how that would be very difficult for somebody uh,
stay
going
at the
through what she's
top
gone through.
of, for any elite athlete to stay at the top of your game has it's just an incredible amount of pressure all the time. Actually, I met the Williams sisters with you and Rich
That's
many
right.
years ago.
They were awesome.
It was really lovely. It was such an incredible experience, and that they were beautiful and smart and forthcoming, and just the description of the entourage they have to have around them to keep them in shape, eating the right foods, the discipline. It goes on and on. And that's a massive amount of pressure for a young person. Naomi Osaka won when she was 19, her first Grand
Right.
Slam.
And nobody wanted her to win because
She was
she beat Serena.
she
So
beats
everybody was waiting for Serena to win her title that would put her at the top.
right.
And so that was hard, and et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, it's a lot. And
Mhm.
maybe she just needs a break. Maybe, and she'll be back soon, which I hope that she will. But it is really cool to see this coming out, because we had this amazing lawyer on our show who wrote a book about this, and law firms dealing with mental wellness issues, and places that you just didn't think would touch it before. You're seeing many of them embrace it. That's very wonderful.
Wonderful. I totally agree. Well, I'm a mental health professional and a
Yes.
therapist to my day job. So there isn't anything that makes me happier than to have people feel like they can ask for resources to help them get through some tough times. And I think all of us need a therapist pretty much a few times a year, no matter what's going on, just for a little check-in. Somebody who isn't involved in your life has no access to grind, who can give you maybe a little bit of perspective that you may or may not have thought of, or your family members may not have seen. So I personally believe very much in it, and and I am from a family. I One of my family members recently said to me, "I don't believe in therapy." So
Mhm.
it's so cool that this next
I know what.
generation,
How do they know not to believe in therapy?
it's,
Maybe
I will not go into detail.
it's like God. I mean, you can never really know. It's only in your heart. But
Our generation of people, there's still a stigma, and it's still, kind of a negative that maybe it shows that you're mentally, it's something to be ashamed of. Whereas I think that certainly looks like this next generation, Naomi Osaka. and Prince Harry, a lot of these very famous people willing to speak out about their mental health and their wellness or lack thereof, and their resources they're accessing to get there. So makes
I
me
think it's kind of the
really
same. Yeah, sorry. Makes you happy. Yeah, I think it's kind of the same, like speaking up against racism or gender inequality, speaking up that you believe in therapy or you think it's great for someone else to go, because it makes us all stronger.
Mhm.
It you're weaker if you don't accept help, and you keep things, or you don't say when something bothers you that you see. It's the strong person that, I think, the stronger person that can ask for help. It shouldn't be a stigma. I think people should be, they don't have to share it. It's nobody's business if they don't want them to know.
Right.
But I think it shows that you have found the strength to look for something to make things better for yourself. Now, if you went on a if you went on a juice cleanse, everybody would be like, yes. If you plan to run a marathon or you want to get an advanced degree, everybody's like, yes. So why, if you are going to therapy to make yourself a happier person, a better person, better to others in your life, people should give you that same applause, I think.
I agree. I agree. And I do think the stigma is slipping away. And there's
Mhm.
still a lot of death by despair in this country. That would include death, dying by suicide or overdosing. I mean, there's still a lot that still there is presently quite a bit of it. So this is a long journey, a long road that we all have to continue to talk about. But kudos to Naomi Osaka. And I couldn't be happier. Oh, and you just sent an article to me about how Sweetgreen's
Yeah,
corporation now, which had just started sponsoring her, doubled down. This is in the Wall Street Journal, and that's an
yeah,
interesting. Companies are really saying we want to go where this generation's going, and we're gonna you know put our
yeah. I love it. I love sweet greens too, which I think just opened in Greenwich.
yay.
But they had just started sponsoring her, and they had the conversation, instead of saying, "Oh, this is too, controversial for us." They said, "This is great, and we love her for her vulnerability and speaking out." So again, anything that can help other people, uh, I think we should all be for. So that this has to get moved into the same basket as all these other things for self improvement, I think.
So
So yay.
great. Yeah, yay. So what else
So
are we going to talk about? We have and I love this article.
so it's Friday afternoon, and we're thinking about the weekend and maybe doing something really fun, or even something a little doing some dancing, having some cocktails. So I'm going to ask you a question.
Mhm.
What age range, you don't have, what age range ish would
Ish.
you date?
That's
Ish. Maybe an ish. There's always the exceptional person.
Um, I would go mid 50s to kind of early 60s. So I'm
Mhm.
59 and I don't want to be too much older than me and nor do I really want to be a whole lot younger. So I think
Mhm.
like 5 years on either side. So that gives me a 10-year window, I think is reasonable, you know.
That's interesting, the 10-year window. So, because I have done an informal survey since we started talking about this, and I was going to say that I mostly hear 10 years up, 10 years down.
Interesting.
But again, I think it also depends on your age,
Yeah.
because a lot of things start to come into play once you hit your 50s and up,
Yes.
right? Like in terms of, I asked my husband this just for the survey question. He said 40 to 70, and I said, "Do you really mean?" I knew he mean the 40, but I said, "Do you
That's
really mean 70?" Which is, he's 64. He said, "Yes, I really do," and actually, I believe him. That's what's I believe him about the 42, but I believe the whole thing in between, because he's very much the person, kind of
you
kind
guys
of a
have
thing.
you and Rich have some incredibly powerful, fabulous women friends who are
Yes,
mid 60s. Like
yes,
I've
yes.
met a bunch of them, so I can totally understand why he's like,
That's
absolutely.
probably where he's getting right, because, but I mean, whether it's that he's thinking about someone in particular, or it's just that he realizes,
Sees.
uh, you know, sometimes you see the biggest, like dynamism and excitement, or some kind of connections with people that are, not checking off all the boxes. Because we were talking about this too. Do they have to check off a box on a survey, and then or on a website, and then they really might be not in that at all. So
Mhm.
that was kind of fun. I don't know, 40, I don't know. There's old souls that are 40 and younger.
Yeah.
And there's people that are like much younger at heart or even immature that are in their 70s. So
It's interesting. We did a show way, way back. This is before we were officially Trevor and Jill Talk, but you can go back and watch that on YouTube on, I think
the
it's on
Fairfield Theater Company, right?
Fairfield Theater Company.
That one, that was super
And
fun.
there's so many different viewpoints on this. With this article that we're discussing, I believe it was USA News and Report,
Mhm.
and it's really about how I think back in the mid 2000s, nobody blinked an eye when Hillary Duff, who at the time was 16, was dating a 24-year-old. Whereas today, that would be absolutely a no go. People would go bonkers. And there was, I think the article started with a TikTok woman who was in her early 20s dated a TikTok, another influencer who was only 18. So it was a woman dating a younger guy. And the question being, once upon a time, it used to be kind of okay for an older guy to date a teenage girl. Not okay anymore, which is
Or
reasonable.
or let's just say 18 plus. Well,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. That article is much more the eyes on younger, much younger people
Yes.
because of in fact, it mentioned, I remember this so well, Jerry Seinfeld being like close to 40. He was
I
dating a
was telling
17-year-old.
about
They were all,
that.
I mean, of course, it's Jerry Seinfeld. So whatever, but it's a little, it seems since all the things that we've all learned a lot and had our eyes open to over the last few years could be a little unusual. The article was sort of focused on that there's so much influence over a much younger person,
Yes.
and in some cases it could be it's called grooming, but it could be looked at as abusive in some ways.
Traumatizing.
It could be, or the fact that influencers, there's been some interesting, not such great circumstances with some of the influencers on TikTok that you
Yes.
were
Yes.
referring to. So I think that's very different. I think once it gets to, and that probably, does need to be looked at a little bit more carefully. At our age, it's not that.
As long as everybody's consenting adults. But there is this part of me. Okay, so I'm 59. I I don't know if I could date 20 years younger, and that would be like a 39-year-old. I'd be like, oh my god, I would feel like I looked so much different than that person.
Mhm.
And then in 10 years, I'm going to look even more
You
different.
probably look better than them. That would be my guess. Well, okay, so that's what I think is interesting. Most women get really nervous. I have a few friends who are exceptions. I was asking two sisters today.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and the one sister was like, "Yeah, she's late 50s." She was like, "Yeah, 40 to 60." The one that's 60 said like, "Nah, 50 to 65, maybe 70." So I think that it's kind of interesting because most women are so self-conscious that they won't look as great. It's always that, right? They don't look as good. And I was telling you, I just watched the Friends reunion, which it was okay. I thought it was originally. I thought we were just going to do the show, like new episodes of the show, but they kind of hashed over everything. Well, for any reasons we can discuss, the three women look gorgeous. They're still looking like so amazing. The guys, they have really aged. Or they're not,
Maybe
they
they're
just
not doing
don't,
the talks and all the business. Yeah.
I don't know, they just don't look as whatever. So I'm thinking, why? Why are we still having um, these ideas? And do guys really have all these ideas? And then that led me to thinking that a lot of guys and women too are much more sort of accepting of how someone looks.
Mhm.
Um, if that's something that they really care about, or how they do. If it's someone that they knew before, whether they had a relationship with them before or knew them in high school or college, because you sort of know them in a certain way. And I think that you don't have that same critical eye maybe if you knew them.
Right.
You're not thinking about that because you know them. And
Mhm.
that's what I think is so bad. Everybody is so worried, oh, I don't look as good, or they won't like me as much, or look at that person. When really the people that once you know them or you knew them, you can have such a positive.
Well, the other thing is I have had so many life experiences, and I feel like such a different person. I'm still myself as Trevor, and there's a part of me that feels like I'm still 25 or 30 inside. It's just that I have such a different viewpoint, and I'm so much less insecure about things and relaxed. So hopefully, like if I found somebody, it would be so much easier and more chill, because back then I was like, oh my God, all the time. So, to me, that's the interesting part of dating later, is that you're now dating somebody who has got a full life of experiences, and somebody you can learn a lot from and hopefully enjoy, so it is a totally different thing, because you're starting out fresh, back in those 20s and early 30s.
Right.
So it's been fun. It's been a little of everything. So um,
Well, here and there, you,
mhm,
uh, like many people I know, have reconnected with people that you maybe either knew, maybe just knew them before as a friend, or
yes,
you dated them before. And one that's in the news that is really kind of fun to talk about is
yes.
Jennifer. And so, okay, are you team A Rod or team Affleck? What would you pick?
Um, to
I mean,
be
they don't come without baggage, any of them. But then
I
again,
don't know. I just there's something about A-Rod that I think is just so adorable. And but again, you know what? Who knows what happens behind those closed doors? It just Benifer was like the first one, the first
right.
the first mashup name that we had, right? To me, it's like a touch point in a way. And how amazing that they would end, well, they may or may not end up together, but this scrutiny. And how could you even start to have a relationship with somebody when everybody's staring at you? I don't know. It's got to be, but I guess they're both so
Maybe that was
beautiful.
the point, that everybody was staring at them. I'm not kidding. By the way, I've also seen A-Rod. I saw him at Art Basel walking around, and he's extremely good looking in
He's
person.
a good
But
looking
I'm still
guy.
team Affleck because I think he's so funny, and I just love like a witty sense of humor.
Yeah.
I just think that that's really fun, and it's kind of fun to see them at this point. But I think you do not underestimate Jennifer Lopez. I mean, she is
Oh, no.
awesome, and I
She,
think she was like, really. You're kind of not making it work with me, okay. And that could be just a, my own guess or interpretation, whatever. But I just think whether she's totally madly in love with him or playing the media or both or whatever, God bless her.
um, again, this is kind of a shift in power of, once upon a time, the guy would have had all the power, and how they
Mhm.
could have killed her career in some way once upon, like a Harvey Weinstein. I mean, there's men have been able to pull strings that women haven't had until really now. And again, she's got
And
such
they still don't have the full strings.
well, look at the women NBA, not the women's basketball players. Like they're coming up, they're so amazing, and they get paid a tiny fraction of what the men get paid, right?
Well, they've got to pull in the views. I mean, it's like a chicken and the egg. Somebody's got to promote them more, bring people to them.
I mean, look at the Yukon basketball women. They
Amazing.
they have incredible following, and
They do.
they're powerhouses. But it's still, so back to the power. J Lo, the woman is just slammed it. She has her followers, her movies, her music, her dance. I mean, she's just all of it. Triple, quadruple, mini threats, whatever to call that. But she doesn't have to stay with anybody she doesn't want to. Like, right? She doesn't have to, have any trade-offs at this point. But can you imagine dating her? You got to be a very secure, strong guy to do that.
Or used to the limelight, which he is.
Yeah.
you know so it could be everything. They could be having the time of their lives, and this is so exciting. And by the way, there's a lot of great publicity, and for her, I
Mhm.
really think her heart was kind of broken, and that's just a guess. But so
Was
this works
Trevor
out well.
cheating her? He was cheating.
He was corresponding with one of the people on corresponding. That's what they said. That was all it was. But corresponding can be taken to several levels, as we all know. On Southern Charm, have you ever watched that? The
No.
Charleston show? Oh, it's so bad, but it's just funny. I mean, it's these beautiful Southern Charleston, mansions and houses and great clothes. And I think everyone on the show almost has been with, either been married to or dated or something with everybody else on the show. But she's this blonde bombshell, supposedly. I mean,
Oh,
I don't know if she's the reason why, but that's what was all over the press, that he was kind of trying to meet up with her. So who knows? But who knows whatever happened? There's one gossip columnist is ever since they started dating saying this is never going to happen. But that's not even my point. My point is that I like that she's, I think she's playing it how she wants to.
Yeah. It's just,
Anyways, at least for the press, we never know.
no, I saw an interview with J Lo and A Rod. I'm forgetting it. It maybe Oprah did the interview, and they were really talking very mindfully about how they were blending their families and what they were saying to their kids. I mean, they struck me as a very thoughtful couple. So
Mhm.
that's part of me is very sad about that because to get to that place where I mean, clearly they've been consulting therapists and co-parenting people, and they've been very loving and thoughtful and careful about their kids. That for this to blow up, it's a big deal. It's a really big deal, and it's got to be sad for everybody in the system.
Yeah,
Her kids, they're his kids. So I part of me is like, oh,
I
you
know.
know,
So, anyways, I'm wishing that she's happy and this is going well for her,
me too.
however it may be. So, yeah, interesting stories of these very famous women. So, what else?
Well, this weekend is polo in Greenwich, so I'm going to go to the polo matches on Sunday afternoon. Looking forward to
Are you
that.
wearing a hat? You have good hats.
Absolutely, got to
Yeah.
wear the big hat.
I
Yeah,
don't
I'm
know
looking forward
why these days. Like, I would love a giant cover, where it's like this
to.
mysterious giant hat. I would love one of those.
You know what? I have been buying hats all in all different places, and I'll probably just go upstairs and pick one out of my closet.
Mhm.
I haven't. Again, I haven't really been to stores that much yet. Just starting to get back into it out of the whole COVID thing. So
They're just starting to get merchandise into, like, a lot of merchandise into, because it was so difficult for sometimes.
just ship things around. So I haven't received the new hat that I ordered from Regine Chevalier. I'm very much looking forward
Ah,
to it. So
I
that's
didn't know
kind of
she did that. She's cool.
cool. Very
Yeah,
cool.
she has great, like, clothes and stuff. She's in Miami, no?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. So so yeah, that's kind of it. How about you? Anything fun for your weekend?
A party tomorrow night where I have been waiting and waiting because I dance around the house a lot to music. I have been waiting to go to a party and dance. Like, I don't care if it's 100 degrees outside, like that whole
Okay.
feeling. So it's nice to have a little of that.
Ready to bust out.
Yeah. So the heels, maybe a little Advil. I don't know. As I readjust, but well worth it. Well worth it. So, well, I hope you have a great weekend. And I hope everybody out there has a great weekend. If you're local, think about going to the Live Girl Art Show
Yep.
um, in Waveney Park. It's really worth it. And I hope everyone has a great time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.